Hi guys, as promised in this video, I'm going to give you places that I do not recommend you stay, especially if you're now moving out this way to Ghana. Let's get right into it. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up. Before we continue, I want to mention the places that are prone to flood as per my research and as per what has been on the media as well, before I get into the other places that I do not recommend you stay in and the reasons why I do not recommend you stay in those places. Areas where flooding tends to occur, to my knowledge, is parts of Waja, parts of Accra Mataheko, parts of Kasua, parts of Circle, parts of East Legon Hills, parts of Pantine, parts of Kaneshi, parts of Adabraka, and parts of Adenta. So those are places that you need to be mindful of if you're considering buying land or living out those ways. It's probably wise to do a bit more research about flooding within that particular area before you rent out that way, buy out that way, whatever the case might be. Okay, let's get into the list now. So the first place that I will mention is Ashaiman. Ashaiman is actually in a very, very good spot. So when it comes to proximity to going to Accra, to going into TEMA, to going to several places, it's not hard at all. And they have a big market with super affordable things. The cost of living there is significantly lower than you would find in other places. And that's why a lot of people tend to live out that way, because rental and that type of thing is really, really cheap. The other thing is there's a massive business hub close to that market as well. So, you know, you can do several things out that way without necessarily having to come out of Ashaiman. Now, the only reason why it's in my list is there's a lot of overcrowding out that way, and therefore there are lots of slums and things like that. So for that reason, when congestion happens, it leads to other issues like rubbish being dumped in places that it's not supposed to be in. It's very hard to manage the sanitary aspect of things as well. So there's lots of gutters that are like choked and things like that. The other thing is, in Ghana in general, in all the places that I'm going to mention, there is no violent crime as such. Even if there is, it's a very, very small percentage. So in these places, with the overcrowding and things like that, things like petty thefts, opportunistic crimes and things like that are not uncommon at all because of the nature of how the setup is. There's parts that have decent homes, but then for the most part, there's lots of overcrowding, lots of slums, not very good road networks and things like that. The other thing to note about Ashaiman is going in and out of Ashaiman is very convenient, especially if you're happy to get on the churchill and stuff like that, because they're literally in and out all the time. But at certain times of the day, taxis and Ubers and things like that will not go past a certain point. So there's a massive traffic light that sort of divides TEMA and Ashaiman. And once you get to that traffic light, most taxi drivers, Ubers will not go past that. You have to get off at that point. So that's also something to be aware of, especially if you don't have your own form of transportation. So all those things make it very difficult for somebody who is used to certain comforts to live out that way. And that's why I will not recommend Ashaiman as a place to consider, especially if you're moving here for the first time. The other place is Teshi. So all these places I have explored in other videos, so I'll link it in the description box if you guys want a bit more detail on these places. So Teshi is also very rich in culture, very rich in traditions. Once you go to those places, you learn a lot about the Ghana people and that type of thing. So for that reason, I feel like Teshi has its pros. The other thing is it's significantly cheaper to live in Teshi than to live in other parts of Accra. Also, the location, it's right along the beach. So if that's something you appreciate, then it's there. And also getting into places like the airport and stuff like that, it's probably like 20-25 minutes. So it's very, very convenient. Again, the issue with Teshi is lots of overcrowding. Infrastructure is not so great. Petty crimes tend to be common out that way as well. You know, bag snatching, phone snatching, those type of things. You can't comfortably walk there alone at night, especially as somebody who has just moved here. And I feel like it's too shocking for somebody who has moved from overseas to here to move to a place like Teshi, and that's why Teshi is also within the list. Teshi can also be quite noisy because there's lots of activity happening over there a lot of the time. They still celebrate a lot of festivals and those type of things, so that's what makes it an interesting place to be. But generally speaking, for those reasons, I don't recommend Teshi. The other good thing about Teshi is there's a strong sense of community over there. People tend to know each other. People tend to have grown up there, so there's that togetherness out that way quite a bit. And then the other thing is you have access to the coast as well, so there's no shortage of fresh seafood and that kind of thing as well, which is always a bonus. But still, I think the cons outweigh the pros, so it's up to you to decide. I've presented you the information. The other place that I want to tell you about is Nungwa. So Nungwa is located between Sakumono and then Teshi as well. So same as all the other places that I have mentioned earlier on, Nungwa has some decent areas, and then there's some areas that has a bit more overcrowding, a bit more slums, those type of things. So it's similar. Petty thefts, little crimes like that, phone snatching, those type of things. You know, you need to be a bit more mindful if you're going to be out that way at night time and that kind of thing. In saying that, Nungwa is in a very good location. Access to public transport is super easy. You're not very far from the airport and a lot of other places within Accra and TEMA as well. You're very close to the beach as well. That's definitely a pro. Their road infrastructure is also not the best as well, so that can all impact you if you decide to move out that way. The next place that I will mention is TEMA New Town. So TEMA New Town is basically where the harbor is. They do a lot of fishing out that way. So access to fresh food is not a challenge at all. And also it's quite rich in culture and stuff like that. They celebrate a lot of festivals and that kind of thing out that way as well. So there's a lot to learn out that way. The cons again is overcrowding, slums, infrastructure is not so great, even though you're in a very good location and it's very easy to get out because public transport is easily accessed. If you're coming into TEMA, it's easy. If you're going into Accra, it's also easy because you can easily get a church or an Uber or something like that. But for most of these places, because of the issues with infrastructure, the overcrowding, the slums, means the roads are not the best. So a lot of the time, let's say you can't get an Uber that will drop you like right in front of your house because your house is probably in some alleyway somewhere. I hope that makes sense and I'm creating a picture of what I'm trying to explain. So that's the challenge in living in a place like that. But it definitely has its advantages as well. Another place that I do not recommend for somebody who is moving here for the first time especially is Choko. So Choko is also within the Greater Accra region. It's not far from Jamestown as well. It's again a fishing town, so there's lots of culture to it. There's that community spirit, all that good stuff. But again, overcrowding, slums, not good infrastructure, refuse disposal is an issue out that way. I mean, I don't think somebody who has lived in a place where they have access to good roads, access to good water, access to those types of infrastructure will settle very well in a place like that. And so that's why that is also on the list. Again, it's in Jamestown, so you can going to the beach is very easy. Going to the airport is like 15 minutes. It's very, very easy to get around in terms of location. But with everything that goes on around there, it might not be ideal for people that tend to watch me. Another place that I'm going to speak about is Jamestown. So Jamestown is also within the Greater Accra region, close to Choko. Also, there's a lot of history to Jamestown. I've taken you guys there before. They have some forts, there's a lighthouse, all those things. So there's a lot of rich history and culture to it. You can also get some very good kenke and fresh fish out there because the beach is literally right there. But living there might be a challenge for somebody who's just moving into Ghana. Again, because of issues of sanitation, issues of overcrowding, issues of infrastructure, all those type of things can play a part in that. So those areas, not ideal. The other place that I'll mention is Kpong. So Kpong is also a coastal town within the eastern part of TEMA. It's not within TEMA, it's like on the outskirts of TEMA. It's a mix of like village, coastal, that type of vibe. Again, there's that community spirit. Again, access to fresh fish. Again, location is fairly decent, so it's easy to get to places, but the same issues over here, limited infrastructure. There isn't too many options for residential buildings. It's just recently that people are starting to build out that way and stuff like that. And so, you know, overcrowding comes with sanitation issues, comes with little things like petty crimes and things like that. So for that reason, Bon is also not an option that I would consider for you guys. The final place that I will mention is Agbogloshi. Agbogloshi is known for a very big market that's super affordable. A lot of people that run restaurants and that type of thing, that is where they shop. Within that community, there's several settlements around as well, and it's mostly overcrowded. Buildings are packed next to each other, serious sanitation issues. They do like recycling of metals and stuff like that, so sometimes the air can be polluted and stuff like that. So I don't recommend this area either for somebody who is especially just moving into Ghana. I hope this video has given you some clarity for where is not a good idea to consider living if you want to have a soft landing. For people that live in Ghana already, they might know their way around a bit better, so they know what part of Ashaiman is, say, good enough. They know what part of TEMA Newtown might be good enough, that kind of thing. But for someone who's new, you don't know anything. So stick to everything that I shared in my previous video. If you haven't seen it already, check out the link in the description box below. Depending on how well this video does, I will come back with an updated version, because there's so many places in Ghana that you can live in and cannot live in. So I can go on and on and on. So give me a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and I guess I'll see you in my next one. Don't forget to follow your bliss, so now life is short. Follow your bliss, na nipa yede. Follow your bliss, na de besidiaye, and follow your bliss, na de ne mada. Take care, guys. I will see you in the next one. Bye.